Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Dune in June, a brand new BookTube event created by Sean D. Standfast, where he and a group of other co-hosts, and also a lot of you, are reading Frank Herbert's masterpiece Dune in the month of June. A doable thing. A large ask, it's a big book, but a doable thing. You read part 1 in the first week of June, that's 200 pages. Part 2, Muad'Dib, is now ongoing in the second week of June, that's 200 pages. Then part 3, The Prophet, that's the third week of June. That's doable. And then the rest of the book is appendices, and there will also be attempts to or coordinate a discussion of various video representations of this novel, in which I'm hoping that Jodorowsky's name will not be mentioned at all. I'm hoping that will be the case. I'm hoping in vain that will be the case, since this book, although it evokes lots and lots of enthusiastic hymns of praise from fans, also brings out the pedants, unfortunately. But we don't have to worry about them for Dune in June, which is also now kicking off a kind of read-along, actually just a read-along of Dune on this channel. I wasn't expecting that, but it seems to have been voted in. So that's what we're doing. We're going through Dune chapter by chapter. The chapters aren't numbered, they aren't named, they aren't called chapters, but they work as chapters, and that's what we're doing. And we are in the very earliest hours of the family Atreides' arrival on Dune, in their keep of Arrakeen. They are going to be betrayed. They are going to be betrayed by their doctor, Dr. Ewa, and they're also going to be attacked by their enemies, House Harkonnen, supplemented by 2 legions of the Emperor's killer Sardaukar soldiers, who should not be involved in inter-house squabbles. That's going to happen, and we just don't know when and how that's going to happen, but the tension is building. And in these chapters, Frank Herbert builds that tension more. We saw in the last chapter, for instance, that a trap left behind by the Harkonnen almost kills Paul Atreides. He manages to survive, but he doesn't know if his mother knows. He doesn't know if anyone else knows. And that chapter ends with him holding the instrument of destruction in his hand and sending word out to spread the word throughout the palace that an attack has been made on his life. And you would think that Herbert would follow that immediately with a follow-up chapter to that, but he doesn't. He realizes that one way to build tension is to diffuse it periodically, so that your reader is at the edge of the seat, but the narrative is not taking them there. So instead of going straight to the follow-up of the last chapter, we go instead to the Lady Jessica, who is wandering around the residential wing of the palace, assigning rooms and examining them and whatnot. And she comes across a weird thing that she doesn't know what it is. It wasn't on any of the plans that I presume she studied. At the top of a metal staircase, there's an oval door. She works her way into that oval door and realizes from the signs on it that Thufir Hawat, the Master of Security and the Mentat, who works for Duke Leto Atreides, has already been here, of course. He's already examined this room and declared it hazard-free. Of course, he declared that same thing about Paul's bedroom, where the device that almost killed him was, in fact, located. But he's declared the room hazard-free. So the Lady Jessica goes into it. The oval door leads to a small antechamber and an airlock, an actual wheeled airlock. She opens that up and realizes it's to prevent moisture loss, and that the room inside is a greenhouse full of water-thirsty plants that don't exist on Dune, and that require vast amounts of water to be kept going. The last thing in the world she's expecting on this arid world is a greenhouse with a plush, water-bubbling fountain at the center of it. She looks all around. She examines the whole room all around. She sees signs here and there that Hawat and his men have been through here and declared it safe. And she finds on the table in the middle of the room a note from Lady Fenring, Margot Fenring, who was the Bene Gesserit trained wife of the Emperor's former proxy on the planet, Count Fenring. They're gone. They're long gone. We haven't met them yet. But Lady Margot shares a heritage with Jessica. Jessica is also trained by the Bene Gesserit. So that's 3 Bene Gesserit that we know, aside from the Reverend Mother. There's the wife of Dr. Ewa, who was Bene Gesserit. There's Lady Jessica, who is Duke Leto's woman. And there's Lady Margot Fenring, Count Fenring's wife. And Lady Margot leaves a note on a pad on the table in this green room for Jessica, figuring that she will find it. The note reads, May this place give you as much pleasure as it has given me. Please permit the room to convey a lesson we learned from the same teachers. The proximity of a desirable thing tempts one to overindulgence. On that path lies danger. My kindest wishes, Margot Lady Fenring. And that seems very anodyne to the reader, except that Lady Jessica knows that the Bene Gesserit have trained in a million different ways of communication, most of them clandestine. And one of the little rules of their communication is that a code phrase for one sister to another to indicate that there is danger and that there is a larger message somewhere is on that path lies danger. The minute Jessica reads that line, she knows that there must be another message somewhere. But how it's already been over the room, so she has to hunt for it. And she finds it in a series of encoded dots poked into the underside of a branch overhanging the pad. She finds the real message. Your son and the Duke are in immediate danger. A bedroom has been designed to track your son. The H, that is the Harkonnen, loaded it with death traps to be discovered, leaving one that may escape detection. I do not know the exact nature of the menace, but it has something to do with a bed. Well, yes, the device was concealed in the headboard of Paul's bed. The threat to your Duke involves defection of a trusted companion or lieutenant. The H planned to give you as gift to a minion. To the best of my knowledge, this conservatory is safe. Forgive that I cannot tell more. My sources are few, as my count is not in the pay of the H. In haste, M.F. So, Paul has been told by the Shadout Mapes, just in the last chapter, that there is a traitor in the household. We already know there's a traitor in the household. We've been told the plan. We even know who the traitor is. And we know that history knows it. It's not just that the Baron has revealed his plan to fade Rotha. It's that this Princess Irulan person is writing books about the traitor. So it's known to history that Dr. Yueh is the traitor. But the key players don't know it yet, even though Jessica just had a chapter where she had a long heart-to-heart chat with Dr. Yueh and never managed to pick up on the fact that he's planning on betraying her and her son and her husband to his death. He manages to keep that secret from a Bene Gesserit poorly in a 10-minute conversation. Crazy. But she now knows from a very trusted source that there is a traitor, and she knows who the traitor is. The traitor is a trusted lieutenant, or what was it again? A trusted companion or lieutenant. Lady Margot is saying as much as she knows. If she could give more specifics, she would. That's as much as she knows. That's a little bit vague. Encompasses a lot of people, but still. Jessica now knows this, and she knows that Paul is in danger from the bed in his room, so she's going to run right to him when the conservatory door opens, and it's Paul, who has this hunter-seeker assassination device in his hand and thrusts it immediately into the pool of water to short it out. This is strange. This is really strange. I mentioned this in the last chapter when the first thing that Paul would have done would not be to send the housekeeper to tell his father's men that an attempt has just been made on his life, but to go and tell those men himself. He would not send the housekeeper. And if he sent the housekeeper, he certainly wouldn't go looking for his mother with this thing in his hand, where for all he knows he could encounter 10 assassins. Keep in mind, she finds this room at the end of a hallway, up a spiral staircase, and through an outer door. Paul does all that looking for her? While the household is looking for him, he does all that looking for her. He does, and he makes it pretty clear in this chapter why he does, because he's starting to not trust anyone. He knows he can trust her, but he doesn't trust Hawat. Hawat was supposed to have cleared his room, and there was an assassination device that almost killed him. It's left to the Lady Jessica to defend Hawat. Paul tells her, we have to start taking our own devices. We have to take our own safety into our own hands. We can't trust anyone anymore. We have to look over these rooms for things that Hawat and his men might have missed. And she reprimands him just a bit. Let's see here. She asks Paul, do you distrust Hawat? And Paul says he's getting old, and that maybe we could take some of his workload off him. And she says, no. That would only shame him. She said, Howat has served 3 generations of Atreides with honor. He deserves every respect and trust we can pay him many times over. Which is a little ironic, since we've already been told that part of the Harkonnen plan is to turn Thufir Hawat against Lady Jessica, to make him suspect her of being a traitor. How he could suspect anyone when he's supposed to be doing background checks on all these people, I don't know. But the Duke's men eventually find Paul and Jessica in this room, and they're very sorry, of course. They found the operator of the Hunter-Seeker that almost killed Paul. He was walled up in the basement. He'd been in the basement behind a wall for a month, just living there, so that it wouldn't look like there was anything new or disturbed, and he would thereby survive an inspection. He has to be nearby to operate the thing, and that's where he was. No mention is made here or anywhere of how anything could be in that headboard. The Lady Jessica mentions in this chapter that it could have been spirited there at any time, but it couldn't have been. That would imply that there's more than one Harkonnen operative walking around the palace, and we know that's not true. Anyway, the men guard Leto and Paul in this room. They say, don't leave this room until we've swept the whole rest of the palace for anything else that looks out of the ordinary. And while they're in this room, Jessica notices that someone is signaling the house from the shield wall. Someone is signaling the house. It's obviously got to have something to do with the Harkonnens. It's certainly not the Atreides who are doing this. Someone's in communication with the house from the outside world. Kind of important, because the house has shields. It has energy shields that are up over it, house shields to protect it. So signaling would be one of the only ways you could get a message in and out without the Atreides knowing about it. But that's the end of this chapter, is that someone is signaling the household, and the tension now is hugely elevated because two of our core cast members have now received warnings of a traitor in their midst. From one, so I don't know how the Shout-Out Mapes would know that, but Margot Fenrig would know. The Bene Gesserit would know. That ups the tension, and it does so a lot more effectively than it would if we'd just gone straight on from the last chapter. You want this chapter to start in a deceptively calm way, with Jessica just looking at a greenhouse. You want that to happen so that you will be all the more on edge, and it works. So the tension is building here. We are feeling more and more, as readers, we are purely in Herbert's hands by now. And we're feeling more and more like this is hopeless. Like there's no way that they can escape this trap. But your hopes are up, anyway. So we're going to move on. Tension is now high. The palace at Arrakeen is now on high alert because an attempt has been made on the heir, on the life of the heir. So we'll just move on with this Dune read-along. We're nowhere near part 2. You're doing part 2 for Dune in June if you're doing Dune in June. But we'll get there eventually. We'll just do this all summer. We'll read Dune all summer. I can think of few better choices to read all summer long. So I had other ideas for a read-along, but we'll just do this. We'll just do this all summer long, chapter by chapter. Unlike my other read-alongs, which won't be this way. They won't be chapter by chapter. We'll do this one chapter by chapter. Why not? So I'll wrap this up for now, and we'll meet again next time. Thank you, BookTube.